So before we start with the reading of the Shyamadyuti, today is a very auspicious day. It's Akshay Tritriya, and there's no inauspiciousness at all today in whatever way you look at it. It's all auspicious, and some of the auspicious activities that took place today, if I can remember, is the appearance of Lord Parshuram. It's the start of Treta Yuga. It is the day when Lord Krishna saved Draupadi from Durvasa Muni, when the Kauravas, the Duryodhana tried to trick the Pandavas into being cursed by Durvasa Muni. He and all his followers came there, and Draupadi had a benediction that as long as she doesn't eat and doesn't turn the pot over, right, there'll be unlimited supply of prasada or boga food. But it so happened that day when Durvasa Muni came, she already ate and the pot was turned over. Then she prayed to Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna said, whatever little prasad is there, whatever little remnants is left in the pot, give it to me. Then there was a piece of spinach, and she gave to Lord Krishna, and then Durvasa Muni and all his followers, they didn't feel hungry anymore, and they went away. So that's also a significance of Akshay Tritriya. And Nanda Maharaj, the pastime of Nanda Maharaj, he was going to Prayag. And Lord Krishna wanted to follow him, But then when he went to the lake called Nanda Sarovar, he saw a big personality there. First time he see him, he asked him who you are. He said, I'm Prayag Raj, And not only that, he saw lots of very beautiful ladies, all in beautiful saris. And they were also there bathing in Nanda Sarovar, So he asked who he was. And this personality said, I am Prayag. And all the personalities, they were Ganga, Jamuna, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmada, all the rivers. And they said that every time people come and bathe in us, to get rid of their sins, so we come here to get rid of all that impurities. We come here to get purified. And then Nanda Sarovar then became Pavan Sarovar. That's near Nandagram. That's me and So that's some of the. So there's many other auspicious activities today, but once again I want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to engage in some devotional service, and we will be reading from mostly chapter 9 because the topic is entitled Mahatmas, great souls. But here we have the super soul, Paramatma. Yeah? So before we start, let's do the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Omagena Tinrandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapadam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadatti Swagadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopisha Gopika Gandha Radhakanta Namastite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushruti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpa Durubhasya Prasindhu Devacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So there's actually 3 verses. In fact, there's 4 verses in Bhagavad Gita that talks about Mahatmas. But we'll concentrate on chapter 9. Chapter 9, text 13 and 14. So chapter 9, anyone knows the title of the chapter? Chapter 9? Yes, the most confidential knowledge. Yes. But these are titled the most confidential knowledge. You know the lovely thing about spiritual life, you have the most confidential knowledge, and after that you have knowledge more confidential than that. Only in spiritual life that can happen. You know? Yeah. So let's just look at the verses. Okay, text 13. I'll read the Sanskrit. Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim asrita pajanti ananya manaso ganatva bhutalim avyayam. Okay, we'll do word for word. Mahatmana, the great souls. Two, but. Mam, unto me. Partha, or son of Preta. Devim, divine. Prakritim, nature. Asrita, having taken shelter of. Bhajanti, render service. Ananya manasa, without deviation of the mind. Yanatva, knowing. Bhuta, of creation. Adin, the origin. Avyayam, inexhaustible. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O son of Preta, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So you can repeat the translation. O son of Preta, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible.
original and inexhaustible.
Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the description of the Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of the Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of the material nature. And how is this effected? That is explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as a living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Devi Prakriti, divine nature. So if one is promoted in that way, by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of the great soul Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna, because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma or great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or of a human being. They meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswerving service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. So this gives us the description of a Mahatma. Now Mahatma, if you translate it, it means great soul. Paramatma means super soul. And Purushottama means supreme, yes. Supreme. So a Mahatma is always in the divine nature. He's always in the divine nature. So you get the material nature and you get a divine nature. So all the conditioned souls are in the material nature. Whereas a Mahatma is not in the material nature, they're in the divine nature, the spiritual nature. Now when one is in the spiritual nature, one is always Krishna conscious. Like you'll find in the verse here. A Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna. So a Mahatma is always situated in Krishna consciousness. Now, when one is situated in the material nature, one identifies with the body. One identifies that he or she is the controller, the lord of the nature. One will try to satisfy their own senses when one is in material nature. And this is the cause of all the suffering. This is the cause of all the suffering that we have. When we identify with the body, when we try to satisfy our own senses, and we don't satisfy the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is the main cause of the suffering? Anyone knows? What's the main cause of the suffering? Yes. Attachment, but attachment to things that are not related to the Supreme Lord. Now, that's a good point, attachment. How do you become detached from material things, material aspects? How do you become detached from the material nature? Yes?
Stop wanting. Stop the wanting.
No, but you can stop wanting for a while. Like the yogis, they try to keep themselves in a neutral position. But remember, the mind is very difficult to control. So how can you get yourself detached properly and permanently from? Yes?
We should detach from material natures and become attached to Krishna.
Yes, that's it. That is the answer. 100%. Yes, give him a clap. You see, the senses, the mind, and the soul are always active. They're always active. So, if you're not going to be situated spiritually, you're going to be situated materially. That situation of equilibrium in the middle is very, very short. Even those who meditate on the super soul and they attain the Prema Jyoti, they don't last there for very long because the soul is active by nature. It is always active. It cannot stay there in that equilibrium position. So therefore it comes back down. So talking about that point about attachment, if we want to be detached from material nature, we have to attach ourselves spiritually to the spiritual nature, engaging in Krishna consciousness. Now, while we're on that point there, let's talk about renunciation. Can we give up anything? Because normally renunciation means to give up, isn't it? So can we give up anything? But can we say we're giving up this or that? Does anything belong to us in the first place? Nothing belongs to us, so we can't give it up. So what is true renunciation? True renunciation is using whatever there is in the Lord's service. That's what true renunciation is. You know, like often we think that spiritual life means getting away from certain things. But actually it is just making use of those things in Krishna consciousness. That's what, for example, another example. You know, all of us, we go to stress, anxiety in this material world. There's lots of stress and anxiety and it brings about misery, you know. Now when you become spiritual, especially the pure devotees, the Mahatmas, they still have stress and anxiety. But their stress and anxiety is spiritual stress and anxiety. How can I serve the Lord more? Or how can I serve the devotees more? I need to do this, that, this. I'm in anxiety, but it's spiritual anxiety. And spiritual anxiety, spiritual stress is a sweet struggle. It actually makes you blissful. Whereas material stress and anxiety, it's a bitter struggle. It makes you miserable. Okay, so let's just carry on. So we look at the purport. What time do we stop? 25 past?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll push after this.
Okay. What's the time now?
Another 10 minutes probably.
Oh. Alright. Okay. Let's just go a little quicker. So the description is given here over the Mahatma. We said in divine nature. How does one become a Mahatma? How does one become a Mahatma? Yes, Anish. Okay, but how will you achieve that?
Renunciation.
Okay, how does one become, if one wants to be a musician?
I think you have to find out what is needed to become a Mahatma and you have to practice it.
But how? Where? What is the help you need? How does one become a musician?
Got to have a teacher, guru.
Yes. You got to have. And it clearly says here. I forgot to read it. But it says here that to become a Mahatma, one needs to. Oh, yes, yes. Such a Mahatma great soul developed through the association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. So one needs to associate with other Mahatmas. That's how one becomes a Mahatma. Now, Prabhupada writes here, he talks about pure devotees. So anyone knows what is the description of a pure devotee? Or from what we have learned, what will be your understanding of a pure devotee?
Probably one who surrenders to Krishna, and all he does is follow the pleasure of Krishna. So he doesn't do anything for his own pleasure.
Yes. Anyone else? That's correct.
Everything he does it for the Lord.
So everything
Yes.
fully surrendered.
Yeah.
Okay. So in chapter 10, text 9, the description of a pure devotee is given there. The translation: the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So the first thing is the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. They're always thinking of Krishna. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says, always think of me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. None of the words Prabhupada is using here in the translation. Fully devoted to my service. Fully. That means there's no 99%. It's 100%. And they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So they're always speaking spiritual topics. They're always speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is where Srimad Bhagavatam comes in. Sukadeva Goswami is speaking only about talking because about the Lord and his devotees. Maharaj Parikshit is only hearing. And everyone else assembly is hearing. So these are pure devotees. They always engage in the pastimes, qualities of the Lord. So these are the pure devotees. So one more point here in the purport. They say pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features such as four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other forms of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of demigod or human being. They meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So this is a very high level, where you only concentrate on the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, in his two-handed form. Because later on in, I'm not sure what chapter it is, chapter 11 text.
But where he says that they're not concerned about the universal form or the form, only the form.
There's one verse in chapter 18 as well, I'm not sure, where they talk about Lord Krishna. Bluish boy, beautiful face, peacock feather and fruit in hand. They talk about that verse there in Bhagavad Gita, meditating upon that form. Now, text 14, we won't have time to do all of text 14, but I'll read the translation because it continues with Mahatma. Now you'll see the comparison between chapter 10, text 9, what we read, the pure devotees, and this text 14. Always chanting my glories. Again, always chanting my glories. Endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worshiping with devotion. So can you see the comparison with chapter 10? The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. They are fully devoted to my service. And here it says, always chanting my glories. Always. Perpetually. You see, always, perpetually. Perpetually means always, continuous. So we'll read a little bit of the purport. A Mahatma cannot be manufactured by rubbing, standing, an ordinary man. His symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So we have to take the description of a Mahatma from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We have to take it from here. And it clearly says there, always engage in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. He has no other business. Later on in the purport, I'll just read. In devotional service, there are certain activities which are called determined, such as fasting on certain days, like the 11th day of the moon, Ekadasi, and on the appearance day of the Lord. All these rules and regulations are offered by the great acharyas for those who are actually interested in getting admission into the association of the Supreme Personality of God in the transcendental world. The Mahatma's great souls strictly observe these rules and regulations, and therefore they are sure to achieve the desired result. So, we have to follow what is prescribed. We cannot make up anything. We have to follow the acharyas, we have to follow scripture, and we have to follow the advanced devotees. Ultimately, everything comes from the Supreme Lord. That's why Lord Krishna is at the top of disciplic succession. He instructed Lord Prema, Lord Prema instructed Narada, Narada instructed Vyasa, and it comes all the way down. So we have to follow prescribed. Like for example, fasting. We are giving prescribed days of fasting, Ekadasi and the appearance day of the Lord. So we have to follow it. We cannot make up anything. Nor can we fast for other reasons. Later on in Bhagavad Gita, it talks about fasting for political reasons and things like that, which is not recommended. So I think we'll stop here now. We'll stop here. Anyone like to say anything? Yes, brother. Hare Krishna. All Rosh Krishna Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you mentioned Mahatma, which reminds me of Mahatma Gandhi. And from Mahatma Gandhi also you mentioned spiritual aspects. You can't make up anything and you have to follow prescriptions. So this reminded me of letters that Srila Prabhupada actually sent to Mahatma Gandhi in his political term. Where Mahatma Gandhi's political role was doing spiritual experimentations, which Prabhupada advised him against. And there was many letters sent, no response. And Prabhupada did say that it would end in misery. Because as a Mahatma, the function, his words were, the function of a Mahatma is to engage in service of the Supreme Lord and to spread Krishna consciousness. So he invited Mahatma Gandhi to come and do that, but there was no response. It's just not a question, but just something that you reminded me of.
Yes, yes. Srila Prabhupada was actually a follower of Gandhi in his early days. And then, as you said, he tried to get him involved in Krishna consciousness, but he was too involved in the political side of things. But Prabhupada made a good point. He said, amongst politicians, Gandhi was a saint. And amongst saints, he was a politician. He made a good point. But once he saw a statue of Gandhi, and he paid his respects. And he also mentioned sometimes that he was a pious man. He was a pious man. But Srila Prabhupada actually, in some ways, those letters he prophesied. I don't know the exact words, but to the effect like Gandhi will have an inauspicious death. He, in some way, it was like a prophecy in one of his letters he wrote.
He did one.
Yes.
And there was also, because Mahatma Gandhi derived a lot of inspiration from Bhagavad Gita, there was his rock and his foundation of his strength and his growth. There was, he's obviously experimenting and showcasing the power of it. But I think at that point, Prabhupada tried to become a Mahatma in its true function.
Yeah, like we'll take the description from Bhagavad Gita. We'll take the description.
So actually, at the end of the day, Mahatma Gandhi got deep into Bhagavad Gita. Right? He always spoke about the Bhagavad Gita, but without a guru. He never had a guru.
And I don't
As
know.
far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned. So what I'm saying is, if you want to preach Bhagavad Gita, you have to come down by the disciplinic success.
Oh no, that you must. No, that is compulsory. That's compulsory.
I think here and there, a lot of people got misled, and even up to today, when people read, they are misled.
Yeah. But that is why you have Bhagavad Gita, you read, and what you don't understand, then There are classes on Bhagavad Gita, and one can study Bhagavad Gita as well. You know, it's just like whatever you study, whether it's school or university, you'll have the textbook,
Yes.
but you'll still need someone to explain it to you.
Yes, questions will arise in your minds. So you need to ask learned people.
Okay, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhaktavan Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Gaura Prema Hare Hare.